So let's talk about replication. Database and data replication is a common technique that's used in building data warehouses, operational data stores, or just having a reporting copy of your data that you can query without impacting an operational system that your business is running on. There's generally two modes of replication. There's more to it, but the primary would be the full replication and your incremental replication. It is done on a table-by-table basis. So if you're looking at, let's say SAP, you're going to have thousands of tables. And if you're going to replicate it from point A to point B, and so let's say you're going to send it over to an operational data store where you could use for querying, it is not just a single table, it is generally thousands of tables. So you have not only a high volume of tables, but some of these tables, or many of these tables, can also be very, very large. So there are a couple of complexities in doing that replication. With all replication, the first step is always to do a full. And by doing a full, which it will take a little bit of time, it may take 2-3 days for the very first pull, you're moving data from point A to point B. Now you're not transforming the data, at least generally you don't want to do that. You simply want to accurately duplicate data that's in one system over to another. But after you do your first one, and let's say you're moving 100 tables and 10 of them were pretty large, and so that took a couple of days. Now you want to refresh that data, but you want to only replicate that which has changed. Well, now the puzzle gets a little bit trickier because each table that you're replicating, you have to make a determination what has changed since the very last refresh or synchronization that I did. So that's where the second step in replication, which is called incremental. Each table needs some way in order for you to do an incremental to determine what has changed and from what particular date, serial number, log ID, etc. So in order to do this successfully beyond just the full, which is often called a snapshot, is to introduce an incremental approach that will just pick up the changes since the last one and then move those over into your destination. In this case, we're using an operational data store. There's lots of different approaches to the incremental, and it's what makes it a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you'll find tables that have faithfully updated the last changed or last inserted, and you can query your table based on those dates and just pull any row that has a date equal to or greater than the last date. These rows also would then need what's called a primary key, making sure that you can uniquely identify that row, so when you pick it up from your source system and move it over to your destination, you can update the actual row that changed. Also, you would need to have a method which is called soft deletes, so that your operational system deleted a row, but now you need to be able to pick up the fact that that row has been deleted and then apply that same delete, and usually it's a soft delete as well. In other words, it's not permanently removed. Another approach is using the log, and there's a number of different solutions out there that would take advantage of the database system's transaction log, which houses all changes made to the database, pick up those changes from one system and then apply those in another system. It doesn't have to be the same platform. You could have SAP on Oracle and then apply those changes to an ODS that's on SQL Server or Postgres or any database system. The key thing is to be able to pull back the incrementals. A third approach, oftentimes the source system is going to use an identity insert or a sequence number for inserts into that table. And so from the ODS perspective, what you need is the last ID that was pulled, then query your source system for all transactions greater than the last ID that was pulled. And that's assuming that those tables are simply inserts and that the source system would not have updates or deletes applied, but instead some new transactions could cancel out earlier transactions. There are systems within SQL Server for replication if you're going from one SQL Server to another. SQL Server also has change data capture, which is a variation on replication, or even a very lightweight change tracking feature that has a built-in serial number that you can query any of these tables, and it will just return those rows that have changed from a certain date. So lots of different options, but the key thing for replication is duplicating as near to real time as possible the tables and the changes to those tables that occurred on your source system over into your destination system, which in this case we've been using a operational data store or ODS.